Time tracking is not something new to this podcast. I've discussed it a couple of times over the years, but it's been a while since I've touched on it, and we've actually updated our policies regarding time tracking, how we do it, the apps we use, and some of the reasons that we do it. And so I wanted to share those with you today, as there has been a slight shift in my thinking around tracking time, not in the value of it. Actually, we now have probably more ways in which we utilize the time tracked, and I'm going to go through those quickly today as a recap and to cover anything I've discussed before, exactly what we're doing at the moment, but also just to fill in any new blanks, so to speak, and also some new real reasons for doing it, which sadly haven't always come from the best places, but we feel that they were a necessary evil, and actually there's been some really positive impacts of doing this. All that to come.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
Okay, so back in, I think it was October 2022, so about 18 months ago, if you're listening to this podcast live, I did a podcast all about tracking time, and I was very adamant that we don't track time to spy on people. We don't do it in order to catch people out. And I wanted to run a business on trust, and I still want to run a business on trust, in which we trust people to fill in their timesheets accurately, to bill us for the work they've actually done, not to take the mick, not to stretch things out, not to make up times, etc. And we go through quite a lot of training with our staff to make sure they are doing it accurately. But we still want to trust them to do it right. We don't want to be looking over their shoulder. I don't want to be checking over, screenshots and recordings of people's work and who sat at the computer and doing biographic, whatever it's called, identification when people log into work and log out and all the rest of it. And there is all that stuff available, so you can get super detailed about this. And I never say never with anything, but at the moment that's not something that I'm advocating or something we are doing within the business. However, we have changed some policies about the way we use time tracking and the tools that we're using. And it's quite early days for us with some of these this new particular tool I'm going to discuss. But actually, some of the benefits, the positive aspects of employing a more Big Brother type approach to it have been really useful. And that's why that's prompted me to record this new episode. So what am I talking about? So in a nutshell, I'm talking about taking screenshots. So taking screenshots of what people are doing throughout their entire working day. It sounds to me, when I say it, like, wow, that is proper Big Brother. This is like spying on my staff. But there's a couple of reasons we did this. So let me just backtrack and explain the backstory to why I decided to implement this, and then that will explain. So there's twofold reasons. One comes from a negative place, and one comes from a very much trying to make life easier for my staff. And so a fairly positive place. So the negative place came when, towards the back end of last year, we had to let a staff member go because it was seen that they had not been actually inaccurately tracking their time, interestingly, but they had been manipulating the number of holidays which they had taken in order to, in effect, get free holidays. And then they took those holidays on top of what their normal allowance was. And I was able to spot this and track this because we have version history on spreadsheets. I also use Google Workspace, so I can go in and see the changes made to documents, the IP addresses used, etc., etc. And I discussed this in a previous episode. And that then led me to think, look, would there be another way in which, if an event such as that occurred, that I could, without any doubt, be able to know for certain that a particular person had actually done the whatever it was that they weren't meant to be doing, which is leading to the disciplinary event. And so what would have been incredibly useful, on top of all the evidence I had, which was pretty compelling, but it may not in future be as compelling. So what would have been really useful was actually to see, well, what was on their screen at the same time that this change was made. Because if those two things correlated and they were on that spreadsheet at that time and I could see that, then it's very highly likely that unfortunately that person would have been guilty of doing whatever it is that the bad thing that they weren't meant to be doing. And so that prompted me to relook at time tracking software. And I looked at a piece of software that I've been using myself to help me track my time. See, I don't take screenshots of me so I can catch myself out if I do something wrong. I take screenshots of me when I do my work because my brain doesn't allow me to remember to track my time. So I can go an entire day and have no recollection that I was meant to be tracking my time that day. And then unless I set alarms consistently, which is annoying and it breaks my rhythm and breaks my productivity, and it's very difficult to do in meetings, for example, having an alarm going off every 15 minutes of what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? And it's annoying. So I found that was just intrusive, and I did it like that for a bit, loads of alarms, and it got me to track my time, but I hated it. And so I looked for a better way. And there was an app I found, and I can't actually remember what it's called now, but it was basically, it sat on your computer, it tracked what you did, every click you made, which websites you'd been on, and it took screenshots as well. So you could then go back through and see what you've been doing. And this was like a game changer for me. I could now go back through an entire day or even an entire week's of work and pretty accurately to the minute track exactly what I'd been doing, which documents I'd had open, which calls I'd been on. Everything I did combined with, say, my calendar showing all my meetings, etc. And I could get a pretty accurate picture of my entire working week, even if I did it days after the event. And I had no memory of these things. That's just not the way my brain works. And so without something like this, it's just like, if I don't track my time, it's gone. There's no point in making it up because it literally will be just me finger in the air. Let's see what I come up with. And so that was absolutely brilliant. And I was trying to find an app which my staff could use to enhance their ability to track their time. And this part of the puzzle came from a new member of staff that started with me. And I noticed that when she tracked her time, it was like rounded up. It was like I started this at 7 and I finished at 7:15. The next task was 7:15, and it went on to 8:25 and blah, blah, blah. And I knew that like she was doing productive work. I had no doubt that she was like intentionally trying to manipulate her timesheet. It was just that she was forgetting to add it onto a timesheet, and actually saw this because I would log on, halfway through her day and there'd be nothing on her timesheet. And then towards the end of the day, it would suddenly all populate. So I could see that she was going back and doing it in retrospect, and therefore she was just guesstimating how long things were taking her. Her total working hours was accurate to the minute. So she wasn't trying to fleece me. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't that, she's not getting any more money out of me because of doing it this way. It just doesn't serve me as the business owner because I can't get the information I need from her timesheet in a consistent way in order to know, well, how long does it actually take to do this task? How long do I need to therefore allocate when this person is on a holiday to cover that work? And that's the kind of thing which I covered in previous episodes about the power of time tracking. And I'll come to that again in a minute as well, just to go through those things. So I was trying to find a solution to help her, and I remembered the solution that I'd been using, and then I found this app called Manic Time, which basically is a team version of that one that I'd used on my desktop, which I can't remember the name, but Manic Time works both for individuals but also for teams, and that's the difference. It allows them to take screenshots of their screen while they're working, which they can access to use to really quickly, efficiently and smoothly track accurately their time in retrospect. They can literally, it's a drag and drop, it's a point and click, it's no numbers being punched in, it's super quick, it's easy, it's intuitive, it works on all devices. And for me, or for this person, this member of staff, it meant suddenly her timesheets went from being just a bunch of guesswork to pretty much accurate to the second of when she started and stopped every single task, because she was able to just scroll through which app she was using, which document was open, the minute it was, or the second it was opened, what her screen was showing at the time, what work she was working on, etc., etc. So basically, and even track out which email you're looking at. It's super cool. Anyway, and so this allowed her to then give me the information that we needed to do things like know how much time to allocate when people go off on absences, whether it's on holidays or on sick, so I can actually see what the average time taken for each task is on someone's task board. This allows me to look at the capacity of my team, knowing how long their recurring work takes, therefore knowing that their capacity to take on new projects. It also allows me to see who's good at stuff. If I know how long the average time taken to do a specific task is generally, we give it to someone else and they do it quicker. That means they're good at it. If they do it slower, it either means they're just rubbish at doing work, or maybe that isn't the type of task that they should be given. And so this allows us to then play around with who does what to make things efficient. Also allows us to split test. By knowing how long someone is taking to do something, we can try a new way of doing it and see if it increases the productivity or the efficiency of that work, or run two people parallel side by side and see, like, do the same work, especially when you bring on new people, and see, which one does it go quicker. All of this sort of information is readily available. The reporting and therefore these optimizations and improvements can be made super easy if you track your time, or if your staff track their time, more importantly. And so tracking time for me isn't the question here. For me, it's one of the most powerful things we do in our business. It provides so much useful information that allows us to optimize everything we do, that it's sort of that's written. I'm not changing that. But it was how we track the time. Is it manually? In the old day, I literally got people to put on their spreadsheet when they started and when they stopped and the task they're working on. Next line, when they started, when they stopped the task they're working on. That's laborious. It's time consuming, and it relies on people being very efficient at monitoring their time in real time so they get it accurately documented. Otherwise, it's just, as I described before, made up. This, using Manic Time, this app, allows that to happen in retrospect really accurately and really smoothly as well. And then what we haven't done yet, we're just about to, is then use that data captured by Manic Time to then run off their invoices every month. And so therefore, they're getting paid accurately for the work they've done. And also it then will work out things like holidays and all the rest of it. But that is not the subject for today. And so, so what I managed to find is a solution to a problem that I had, which was one of my staff was struggling to remember to track their time, that they were able to use really easily. And I knew it was going to work easily because I had been playing around with a very similar app. And when I tried this app, it was even, Manic Time, it was even easier to use and more intuitive, and some really cool automation features as well, just to make it actually really slick to use. And so that solved that problem. For me, it solves the security type problem that I discussed before, that if there should be an event where I have to question, did someone do something, I now have, in inverted commas, photographic evidence of the event, and therefore there is no doubt. And that either will prove the person's innocence, brilliant, I can go to bed, they can keep the job, or prove their person's guilt, I can then go to bed and sleep well, and unfortunately they won't have their job. But it's that peace of mind for me of making those tough HR decisions. This is another tool in my artillery in order to be able to make those decisions with confidence as a small business owner. And so therefore, for me, it's worth its weight in gold. I don't, however, and I'm going to say this, as I said at the beginning, I don't advocate spying on my staff. So to this day, and we've been now using it for about 6 weeks or something, to this day, I've never gone in just to see what they're working on. I've never gone in just to say, ooh, that was taking what's going on there, unless it's actually because a specific task they've put down has taken them an extraordinarily long amount of time, and we together want to then go and look at it and say, well, what was going on? What did you do? Was it tracked accurately? And therefore we need to look at it, or was it actually a mistake in the tracking, and actually we just need to add an extra tag because actually that's 3 tasks put together and you forgot to tag them. So that's, again, a great way of being able to quickly go back and review stuff. And because it's got screenshots, it allows that to be done. And then, any questions of, oh, this is taking too long, or they're dragging their heels or whatever, they're gone. And I can then go on and we have a great relationship, and it keeps that trust, rather than getting rid of the trust, which is what I thought this app may do. It actually allows us to stop having distrust inwardly, even if we're not expressing it outwardly. And that is a huge benefit when I'm trying to build relationships with my team, and by the nature that I am quite a distrusting person, sadly. I don't like that about me. It's something I'd love to change, and I work on changing, but I sort of naturally, I think it partly probably ADHD, but I default sometimes to distrusting people, and I hate that. But then this gives me some ability to have evidence to say, Steve, you're just being stupid. This person isn't just distrustful, if that's the right word. And so therefore I can then, as I say, sleep better and have a better relationship with them. I don't have anything in the back of my mind worrying me, and we can just get on and have a brilliant relationship. So there are loads of benefits I've found, like hidden benefits or unexpected benefits to actually doing this type of tracking. And therefore for me, the benefits do outweigh any issues. But, and I will say this, I need to say this, is don't go into this lightly, if this is something new. If you're a new company and you're hiring your first new employee, do it before they start and explain to them when they start, this is how we do things around here, and these are the reasons why. We do it for all the reasons I've just said. We track time for efficiency, for split testing, for time balancing, for capacity, for workload delegation, all the rest of it. These are the reasons we track time. We use this app with screenshots so that you can track your time accurately, even if you forget to do it in real time. And we upload those to the server that we don't look at on a regular basis. But if there is ever a question that we need answers to, like why did this take so long? Has that actually been so? Something gets done badly in the company, something gets changed, and it actually has a GDPR issue or something like that, and you want to prove your innocence. It's there in black and white or photographic evidence of that not being you, rather than the converse of us having to basically think it could be you, and therefore either having really ill feeling or having to sack somebody wrongly because we didn't have the evidence to back it up. So if you explain it like this, then the person will accept it because you are giving them genuine reasons of why it's so important for their continued ability to function in the company at a high productivity and efficiency, and to allow you from a sort of auditing, security, whatever perspective, to have peace of mind. And if it's presented like that, I don't see that it will be ever an issue. And if there is, then maybe they're not the right person, because if somebody is honest, if somebody would track their time honestly anyway, if they are, they have no intention of dragging things out, they're going to work hard, they're going to be productive, they're going to get work done in the time that they're basically being paid to work, then they shouldn't really have an issue with being tracked. And this isn't something just small businesses are doing like myself now. Like, I actually got the confidence to do this as well, because my wife, who works for one of the big banks, she has to track all of her time. She has to put it onto a timesheet and allocate every single minute. No, they don't do screenshots, but it's the time tracking element of it that was like, is this just getting too micro? Is it like, am I going too much into detail here? Because I can be guilty of over analyzing things sometimes. But actually, if big companies do this regularly, then why shouldn't we? If there is genuine benefits, which, as I've explained, I massively think they are. And the old adage, what you measure improves, is if you're thinking your staff and the work they do, the cost of that is probably the biggest cost in your business and will probably be forever, then actually making them efficient and highly productive, that is a hugely beneficial thing for increasing the bottom line, basically making those 1% incremental wins as you increase productivity, increase efficiency. And by tracking time, you have evidence to say which way you're going, if it's going the right way or the wrong way. And so, what you improve measures is a great way to look at this, I think. So, the last thing I wanted to say was really carrying on from my conversation about doing the deployment in the right way. And that is that when I rolled this out, even though I thought I'd made this very clear, that we are not using this as a way to catch people out. And it's not that if you track your time erroneously, you are going to be punished. It's a means of, we're giving you a tool to help you track your time more accurately. As long as the total hours add up, that is the disciplinary thing. As long as you're not overcharging us for the hours you work, That's the thing that you have to get right for obvious reasons. And they should know that. They start work at 9, they finish at 5. They know how many hours they've done, regardless of where they actually tagged their time, what tasks they've been working on, etc. But then if you say, look, but this gives us all those benefits I've just listed a couple of times, then they'll understand that, okay, yeah, I understand why they're doing this. I understand that if I don't track my time accurately, at least especially while people are learning to use it and they're going to forget and they're going to do it wrong, etc., etc. I had a couple of team members who were really panicked because they said, I'm so sorry, Stephen, I didn't track my time accurately. I hope this is okay. I don't know how to fix it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, totally fine. Putting their minds at rest, explaining again, reiterating in a company meeting, the reasons we were doing this, why it's important, the benefits we're going to get, etc., etc., etc. What we're not doing it for, what we're not being big brother, we're not trying to spy on you, it's there as evidence, etc., etc. And then she was like, okay, no, I'm happy now. Yeah, I get it. And that's it. So be honest with people, tell them the real reasons why you're doing it, explain, it is there to actually prove one way or the other if something bad has happened and it was you that did it. I'm going to hold my hands up and say, yeah, that is a possibility of it being used like that. So don't do anything wrong, simple as that. And I think by doing this, if you suddenly have a max exodus of staff members, you've got to question what they're doing with their time. And I remember I was speaking to a very big company. I won't mention the name, but I was speaking to an employee of this very big international company, of a media brand, let's just say. And they were in the company meeting when the CEO, whatever it was, announced they were deploying this type of software in the company. And apparently, this is just off this guy I met over dinner, but apparently about 30% of the workforce left within the next 2 weeks because they knew they were going to get caught. And so the company had just got rid of, without having to sack anybody, 30%, like the 30% of the workforce, who were basically taking the mick. They were basically stealing from the company, probably. And it's all speculation, but it was an interesting, it came before I actually started doing this, so it was actually an interesting thought in the back of my head when I was actually rolling this out, what would happen, but actually no one left in my company, which is great. But yeah, so you're there, if you do have a larger workforce and you see people leave as a result of this and kick up a bit of fuss about it, then maybe you can question, is it because they're have a chip on the shoulder about Big Brother, or is it actually because they're worried they're going to get caught out for doing some stuff? I don't know which way to think of that. I'm just putting it out there, and you can make of it what you will. Cool, that's it for today. Hope you found this useful. I'd love to hear if you are tracking your team's time. If you do, how do you do it? What apps do you use, etc.? If you want to ping, let me know, or if you want any more information about this, as always, reach out to us via the social media channels you're on, or to hit me up at steve@systemsandoutsourcing.com, and I will get systemsandoutsourcing.com, and I will always reply to any emails I receive from you. Thank you so much indeed. Take care. Please do share this with anyone you like, love, and trust, or anyone else for that matter who you happen to meet any time of day or night. And let's share the love and get this podcast out to more and more people in the world. We're currently at the time recording top 3%. I'd love to be able to get to top 1% by the end of the year. That would be a fantastic achievement. And I can only do that with your help. If you find this useful, if you find these episodes helpful, then please share them with other business type people. And let's get the podcast rocking. Thank you very much indeed. Have a fantastic day. And until next time, take care.